Hey there, everybody. It's Jess Milner. Welcome to another episode of Wellness Blueprints. I'm so glad you're here to nourish your roots with me today. So, it is the last week of February, and we have been talking about the heart this month, just because, it's heart month, it's love month. But I am going to shift just a little bit today. And really because it's something that's, I hate to sound cliche, but like it's hurting my heart to see there's just so much anger and hostility going on right now. I feel like I can't even go on to Facebook or TikTok or anything without seeing a bunch of people. I mean, you're entitled to post your opinion on whatever it is or post factual information about whatever it is that you want to. 100% totally support that. But the way that people are just being attacked and canceled and oh my gosh, and it's getting really really heated, and then I'm even seeing it in like within your own groups, and it just seems to be amping up so much more. And it's going to have an effect on everybody's thymus glands, like we've been talking about that. You start to have things like, depression starts to come in. And, these people that are human beings that are being berated by other human beings who are just really good at dehumanizing people because they're behind a keyboard. And now everybody is entitled to have their own opinions on literally anything. But what I want you to understand, and this is coming from somebody who has had years and years of, you know, big opinionated issues, basically. I mean, I used to insist that my opinions were based on facts. And even though some of the time that was absolutely true, it doesn't mean somebody always has to agree with you. So it's important to understand that pretty much everything that you're really upset about, that you're feeling really, really emotional about, is it's coming from a certain perspective. And it may not be that bad to someone else, or if someone else is looking at it in a different way. And so we don't need to let our nervous system think that there's something like really crazy going on just because somebody is disagreeing with us. Okay, we can look at things more objectively. It's important to understand that other people are allowed to feel the way that they feel, and it doesn't have to affect you. Somebody else feeling the way they feel, it doesn't have to affect you. And most of the time, the things that people are really, really upset about are things that they can't even control. If we just want to, just the political climate in the country right now, there are people that are upset for multiple different reasons. And I don't care what side of the coin you fall to, or if you even care, but there's really no reason to let yourself get this worked up over something that you can't even control. It's going to lead to things like depression. It's going to lead to things like, oh, why can't I find happiness? And then you're in this grieving period for your country or your neighborhood or whatever the thing is. And really, there wasn't anything much that you could do about it. There's certain things that you can do here and there, depending on, where you are in terms of, like your town hall meetings and stuff like that. I know there's been some things going on in the area that I live in, that some people have been going to some meetings and stuff like that. And it's okay to go and have your voice heard, of course, but to allow it to completely consume you. And so, really, what this is getting at here is that we're not allowing ourselves to get rid of those things from these from these energy centers, things like emotions and just that are just stuck in these areas, and they are really doing all of the driving, and they're keeping us in this place of fear and sadness and guilt, and they're keeping us into these places. So I want to kind of use an example here. And I'm going to use an example of ADHD, mostly just because that's something that I've been dealing with my whole life. And I've only really realized that in the last, I don't know, 4 years or something like that. So we're, of course, chasing dopamine. That's like the biggest thing with ADHD, is that, there's a bit of a dopamine deficiency. So we are constantly looking for something like that. So when you're having an argument with someone, it does release dopamine. Okay. Arguing, when you get into an argument, and this, it's kind of like, it's like, okay, well, other people are allowed to have their own perspective. And it's not all black and white, not all wrong and right. And this is absolutely true. But when you have ADHD, or you're somewhere else on the neurospicy spectrum of whatever, whatever the case may be, sometimes it's really difficult to sit back and let somebody be completely 100% ass wrong about facts without saying something. Like, that person is factually incorrect. Like, they are absolutely wrong. These are the facts. That is incorrect. And it's like, okay, so you get into this space, and whether you're having the argument or not, you have this like overwhelming need. And I remember this as a kid, like, if the teacher was talking about something, like, oh, they start talking about this restaurant, and like, oh my gosh, like, we go to that restaurant all the time, blah, 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 blah. Like, you want to start talking about it, and like, you can hardly contain yourself, from like saying, okay, well, I know so much about this, so let me tell you all of these things. And then they go, oh, well, this about this restaurant, and you're sitting there going, I know that's not true, I was there last week. And like, it's that's not even true. It could be something like, oh, well, they said that the walls are green and the walls are clearly purple. And it's not like something that you need to really argue about. There's no reason why you can't just sit there and go, yeah, that person's wrong, but I'm gonna let them be wrong. If for whatever reason, inside our brain, this opens up this like loop that must be completed, where we must get back around to, you do understand that I'm correct, right? I'm right, you're wrong. Like, we want to get back to that loop. So then the emotions start going absolutely berserk when this rejection sensitivity starts to set in, this RSD that kicks in. Because when somebody goes, well, no, well, to me, maybe this person is colorblind, or from my perspective, this is how it's going, and blah, 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 and this is what I am to understand. But instead of just looking at that and going, okay, this is this person's perspective, or maybe they were given incorrect information or what have you, suddenly we're taking it personally. There's an emotional response to this. Like, I'm being personally attacked because they don't agree with me, because everything is like black, white, wrong, right. And losing makes you feel like you've completely lost control over everything. And let's be honest here, probably feel like you are completely lacking control in so many different areas of your life if something like this is going on. And that is why, like, my whole thing is, I help women take control back of their lives, harness control of their lives by uniting spiritual and physical wellness. So, of course, there are going to be some things that you can do physically and, lifestyle like to help with these kinds of things. And I'm not going to sit here and say that emotion code and body code are going to completely relieve you of all of your ADHD symptoms. No, that's not how this works. However, the more of these certain emotions that we have layered up, because especially when it's a negative emotion, we're not fully processing it all the time. We're told from a young age, like, go compose yourself over there, go cry it out in your room. Do you want to hide even when you're little, like, oh, here, I'm going to comfort you, and you're going to hide it here. And then, as an adult, my mom lives 2,500 miles away. I can't exactly cry on her shoulder every day, right? So we are in this position. Hold on, I'm having an ADHD buffering moment here. So the more that we have these things that are unprocessed, they're sitting inside of us, and they are creating these like emotional traffic jams, or they're like grief cases, okay? These things that we're just carrying around. But the thing is that even though these are more negative things, the anger, the fear, the feeling of rejection, feeling of unworthiness, feelings of shame, or judgment, fear of judgment, jealousy, or just even getting into like hopelessness, or just maybe you just feel like confusion, defensiveness. The more that we have these things stacked onto us, frustration, even frustration, anger, those are some of like the easiest ones to really wrap your head around. But the more of that we have layered inside of us, even though it's a negative thing and it's actually doing something to our wellness blueprint that's having a negative effect on the way that our physical body mirrors that, it seems comforting to our nervous system. It's like that negative feeling we have mistaken for positive, because it's releasing those things. It's making us feel a little better. It's bringing us back to a familiar feeling. And even though it's not a good familiar feeling, it's still familiar. It's still familiar, and it's still comforting in its own way to your nervous system. Even though, okay, so it makes your brain think that it's comforting, but your nervous system is like, oh my gosh, we have an avalanche coming right for us, and it's coming really quickly, and we better run. Um, or, scary monster or whatever it is. But, I mean, like, we're like, oh, like, well, my nervous system thinks I'm being held at gunpoint, but really I'm just upset and frustrated that somebody else doesn't understand something the same way that I do. So when you can take a deep breath and just go, okay, well, maybe I don't need to allow other people's opinions, other people's ways of life, other people's anything, other people's perspective. Maybe I don't need those things to affect me or to affect me in such a way. We can look at things a little bit more objectively. We can look at things, and you can still have your opinion. You can still form your perspective, because I mean, that's what we're going to do. Everybody has their own perspective on like any given situation. It can be within your household, in your community, like whatever. But we can look at things more objectively. That tends to kill off fear pretty quickly, because when you're looking at things objectively, you're only looking for the actual facts. You're not looking for somebody with the same opinion as you to tell you the facts. You're looking into places and going, okay, figuring out where like, okay, well, this is clearly incorrect. So they're upset about this and it didn't even happen, but they're still mad about it. No, it's not necessarily your responsibility to tell them that what they're upset about is not even a thing. But you know that it's not. Okay, so I don't need to be upset about that. It's not even a thing. It's a non-issue. And then you can go and look at something else and just gather up all the facts and decide whether or not you actually give a shit. Do you? I'll tell you, there's a bunch of stuff that, a few years ago, I'm being like, oh my gosh, that would have really pissed me off. And now I'm just like, whatever. Here I am on my mountain doing my thing. I'm going to keep living my life no matter what somebody else is thinking. One of the things that has been, it's very strange to me, and I've had to, just kind of calm down and allow other people to have their perspectives, because in the end, like the people that are surrounding me are the people that are surrounding me. People surrounding you, the people surrounding you, the people that need you are going to come to you, and vice versa. So, but so many people out there have this idea that what I do is somehow demonic, or evil, just because it entails moving about frequencies, manipulating energies. And, but at the same time, they tossed out their microwave. They don't like 5G. They're worried about, like all of these different things. So it's kind of strange. And it's like, okay, well, that's where they're at right now. And it's not my responsibility to make them be anywhere else. Because at the end of the day, absolutely everything is exactly as it should be. So it takes a little bit of time to be able to come to terms with some of those things, especially when you got all these things layered up inside of you. It's, that energetic gunk. We get more and more of it piled on, as a lot of it is piled on in the first 7 years of life, but we get it piled on lots and lots and lots over the years in our adult life too. And it's going to affect our energy centers. Working on a heart wall is going to find so many different emotions that are going to be contributing to things like this, where you are, finally you're like, okay, well, I'm going to decide that I don't care about that so that I can remain peaceful on the inside and actually stay that way instead of just saying it. Because there's like a difference there too. I'm going to keep my peace here. And you might have intended to, but then sometimes it, it catches up with you anyway. But the other thing is, it's not like there's something like major that you need to do. I want to help you move the energy around with emotion code and body code. I want to help you out with your quantum frequency blueprint so you can see what's going on with that. And of course, I have my magnetic quanta, which is just fantastic for really getting to the core issues that are going on. But the only thing that you really need to do is when you notice yourself getting all hyped up about something that really you don't have any control over, and, and you just go, well, you know what, that's their perspective. And although I think it's super sucktastic, it's not my problem, not my monkeys, not my circus, that kind of thing. And so what you did right there was you were able to just kind of like take a little pivot and not go on down your normal road of, well, I must tell them right now how wrong they are. So what you've done there is just brought it to your own awareness. And that's really, I mean, that's all you got to do. You put eyes on it. You are aware that there was something going on and, you reacted in a different way. Awesome. You did it. Well done. So the more that we get through these emotions, the more that we are aware of what it is that's going on around us and inside of us and how the two are affecting each other, the more peaceful we're going to end up being. So, and that's what I'm here for. So go ahead and visit my website. It's deeprootedwellnessid.com and book your emotion code, body code, or quantum frequency blueprint. You can save $5 a session if you purchase a 3 or 6 pack of the emotion code and body code sessions. Quantum frequency blueprint is its own price. And that does entail body code. We've talked about that. You can probably find one of my podcasts on that. And I'm so excited to work with you through this because this is, we can do the heart wall. We can do, it's just getting rid of layers upon layers of energy that it served a purpose. It served a purpose, but it wasn't fully processed. And now it needs to go because it's not serving a purpose anymore. And it's rather unresolved. So we're going to acknowledge it and we're going to help it get on out of there. And then you're going to go on living your beautiful life. So go ahead over and book a session. I've always got them available. I'm so glad that you joined me today. I hope that your heart chakra is feeling open and fantastic. And if it's not, you know what to do. All right. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks for stopping by.